Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Cameron, and it is Tuesday the 20th of December 2016, and we've got headlines all over the papers today. The Christmas killer, ISIS terrorist who killed 12 after hijacking HGV, murdering driver, and so on. And then you've got what else you got? Revealed the off-duty special forces officer who gunned down the Russian ambassador. As Turkish police arrest his parents and so on. You know, people have got an excuse, haven't they, not to enjoy their run up to Christmas. And one might think that that's what's going on here, trying to destroy people's Christmases. But anyway, I've written something about it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to read it to you. Now, it saved me going off on tangents, so I'm just going to read this to you. And we shall go from there. And hopefully, by the time I finished it, your build up to Christmas isn't as sullied as it was before I started. So, here we go. Today, the newspapers and media, which we have come to learn not to trust, are replete with stories and images about a lorry driving through a Christmas fair in Berlin and the assassination of Andrei Karlov, the Russian ambassador to Turkey. Islamic terrorism has, of course, been blamed. The outcome of all this is the masses taking yet another step through fear and consent towards submitting to falsehood, lies, death, and lawlessness. They are taking another step to consenting to and submitting to the authority of the internationalist and his false god known as the father of lies. It is clear to me that both the Berlin incident and the Karlov assassination are hoaxes. There is, for example, no blood, there's shoddy reporting, and as I've said, it is the internationalist who has the motive. It is he who will gain from our falling for this deceit. You might say that Karlov's death, if Karlov's death were a hoax, then the Russians, or should I say those behind the Russian government, are complicit. Well, whether or not Ambassador Karlov actually died, all governments across the world are complicit in bringing in global government. There is no exception. As I said many times before, ladies and gentlemen, the clues are all around us. One of the main symbols of the false internationalist god and its religion is the birth of the sun. It is connected to Isis and Nimrod. The symbol is the womb and the sun, often depicted rather like a cup and a disc, or a cup and a star. We see this symbol everywhere. For example, the United Nations has its leaves and globe, with the leaves providing the womb, or the cup, and the globe providing the disc. We see it in the cap badge of military everywhere, from those in Nazi Germany to communist Russia to armed forces all around the world. There are frequently oak leaves and a disc, or in the case of Russia, there's a star. We see this symbol in the Catholic Church. We see it in Islam, with the crescent and the star. We see it in communism, with the sickle providing the crescent or the cup symbol and the star with the hammer and sickle. The communist paper in Britain is called the Morning Star. And remember, in astronomy, the morning star is also known as Lucifer. Now, although I don't agree with everything he says, you might try looking at Walter J. Veith's video entitled the Islam-Catholic connection. And that explains a lot more about the symbols of the cup and the disc and so on. But no matter. The clues are all around us, ladies and gentlemen. As it states in 2 Corinthians 4:3-4, in the Aeonian Books translation, which is obviously the best one, as it states in 2 Corinthians 4:3-4, in the Aeonian Books translation, quote, "But, on the other hand, our gospel is hidden. It is hidden amongst those who are perishing, amongst whom the God of this aeon has blinded the minds of those unbelieving, so that the brightness of the radiant gospel of the Christ, who is the image of God, might not beam out to them." That is to say, this era, or aeon, is of the false God. And as I explain in my book, God Makes His Move, that God uses government, all government, as one of his main ways of interfacing with this world. And so, all governments are afflicted. And so, we are being subjected to a world system until the end of this dark aeon. You see, because all governments have this symbol, this disc and cup, for example. The United Nations does, for example, which is the next step toward, which is the closest step towards government world government that we've got. So we are going to be subjected to a world system until the end of this dark aeon, because of course, as it says in the Bible, in Corinthians 4:3-4. Among them whom the God of this aeon has blinded the minds of those unbelieving. So an aeon is an era, it's not permanent. If you go to the KJV, you will see God of this world, ladies and gentlemen, which is a terrible thing to say, because it makes everybody think that the world belongs to the God of this aeon. They call him the God of this world. Whereas, of course, if you go to the original Greek, the word chronos is not there. Chronos means world. It's not there. Aeonos is aeon, era, period. Which is reassuring because we know that this period comes to an end, as I explained. So where was I? Yes. That is to say, this era is of the false God. And as I explain in my book, God Makes His Move, that God uses government, all government, as one of his main ways of interfacing with this world. And so, all governments are afflicted. And so we are being subjected to a dark world system until the end of this dark aeon, as I just explained. There are also those who believe that Russia will save us. There are indeed those, aren't there? They are looking to Russia. Russia, Putin can't do anything wrong. Russia will save us is what people keep saying. So there are those who believe that Russia will save us. It won't. There are those who believe that ideology or politics will save us. They won't. Our salvation will not come laterally. From Russia, from him, from there, from that country, on this plane. Meaning it will not come from one side or the other. Because, this entire world system is controlled. All the sides are controlled. It will not come from one side or the other in this world, because all sides are controlled by the God of this aeon. All the main sides are controlled by the God of this aeon, ladies and gentlemen. He has a powerful position. He's got to do his task. Man cannot save us against such an onslaught, not least because corrupted man got us into this position in the first place. Man is vulnerable. Man can't have that ultimate authority, ladies and gentlemen, because he's vulnerable. Vulnerable to the God of this aeon. Our salvation will only come from above, so not laterally, above. Comes down. i.e., so our salvation will not come from above, not from side to side, or from one side or the other side. This is what the Bible promises. It's coming from above. This is what Christ promises. It comes from above. Only God will save us through Christ from the heavens. I'll explain that in a second as I go through this. This will happen soon enough with a moment called the Epiphania. Again, I explain what that is in the book God Makes His Move. So this will happen soon enough with a moment called the Epiphania. It is referred to in Titus 11:13, where we hear of, quote, the favourable intervention. Again, that's from the Aeonian books, and that is the correct translation. So the Aeonian books, Titus 11:13, talks about the favourable intervention. And it talks about bringing in the kingdom of God, or the sovereign rulership. This will be followed by the kingdom of God, which is God's sovereign rulership through Christ in the heavens, with them in the heavens, over the nations here in this world. So it's God's sovereign rulership through Christ from the heavens over the nations here. That's what the kingdom of God is. That's what the sovereign rulership is. So it's very good here, because finally, we've got the God of the Aeon out of the way, and we've got a different form of government, which is good and in accord with God and what's right and good, and was what gives you your freedom and what protects you from government tyranny, the tyranny of man, and of course, tyranny of the internationalist who's interfacing with the God of this Aeon. The kingdom of God is also known as the Aeon, the 490-year Aeon, which is what the Bible has always pointed to, but has not been translated properly with regards to this important point until Christopher Sparks's recent translation, the Aeonian books. So there is this 490-year kingdom of God, which starts with the Epiphania, which ends this aeon of darkness, the age of darkness, the God of this aeon's era, the aeon of corrupted, the age of corrupted government, with the symbol of Nimrod and Isis and all that sort of thing, and morning stars, comes to an end. And this is 490 years long, and I examine that in my own book, God Makes His Move, and you can see some extraordinary stuff about that there. But the point is, there is a turning point coming, when the father of lies has to step aside because of God's move through Christ. Anyway, man must stop thinking he is God. This is something that's been drummed into my head, ladies and gentlemen. Man, and to tell you about it, man must stop thinking he is God. Man must stop thinking he's God. You can say it all different speeds. Man must stop thinking he's God. Get it in your head. It's extremely important that we do this. The hubris of man thinking he's God is extraordinary, and we're seeing the fruits of that hubris right now. Man must stop thinking he is God. This is one of our main lessons in this terrible world today. Man must stop thinking he is God. You think of all those New Age religions which train people to think that they're God and even above God. I've heard somebody said to me, you can go beyond God. This extraordinary stuff, this extraordinary hubris only brings in the darkness with which it is associated. So, this is one of our main lessons in this terrible world today. Man must stop thinking is God. You see, man cannot end this dark aeon. Man can't do it. Our foe is far too formidable. A foe whose spirit is being directed here by anti-God, anti-Christ, treasonous internationalists. Only God, through the true Christ, can end this aeon of darkness. So, it might make you think, well, what can we do then? Should we just sit back and submit? No, of course not. As it says here, what can we do? Well, we in the common law nations are blessed, because the common law is God's law implemented by God's law through Christ, the true Christ, by the way, Jesus Christ. So I'll say that again. Well, we in the common law nations are blessed, because the common law is God's law through Christ, implemented by man's common sense and reason. So we can truly hold our ground in the common law nations, because we've got that access to that law to be actually implemented in the real world right here in real time. So we can hold our ground. It doesn't mean to say we're going to take over and cause a big revolution. We simply have to hold our ground. So we can truly hold our ground. It says in Ephesians 6, do read Ephesians 6, preferably in the Ionian Books translation, Christopher Sparks' one. It says in Ephesians 6 that as the 490-year aeon approaches, we must hold our ground, which means apply God's law through Christ. It certainly means that at one level, which surely means withholding all consent and funds towards our corrupted governments. So withholding the consent to our governments and withholding funds to them. It also means actively re-establishing or strengthening our relationship with God through Christ, which is absolutely essential. And one of the greatest ways of doing that is to have a look at the Ionian books, is to start looking at the Ionian books in the context, you know, the proper translation of the gospel in the context of the world today. And it will help also if you read my book, God Makes His Move, which you can download for free. Okay? And also just start thinking about it and just opening your eyes. It's fairly obvious. So, strengthening our relationship with God through Christ, that is absolutely essential. And once you start doing that, things really fall into place. It's not about floating around. It's not about being soft and wet and, you know, going around cuddling everybody or playing the guitar. It's about standing tall and upright and real as a man or a woman according to the law of God and Christ, which gives you your freedom and protects you against government tyranny. It gives you your freedom also to live a fulfilled life with what you need, what you require provided for you. Not by state handouts, but by you living a true life. Anyway, the good news is that I don't think we have long to wait for this divine intervention. And when this happens, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a very good idea of what truth really is all about. And we're certainly not getting that at the moment, especially if we are going to rely on the media today and all of these concoctions that are being presented towards us. Don't forget, the clues are all around us. Do look out for that cup and disc or cup and star symbol. Make your own conclusions as far as that's concerned. You'll see that it's the influence, the dark influence, is far more widespread than you may have imagined. And also, again, don't forget, never forget this, man must stop thinking he is God. Rather, man should make a better relationship with God through Christ, according to the truth written in the Bible, in the Gospels. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and I shall speak to you soon.